All right, folks, it's that time. It is time for another bonus episode here on Anywhere the Needle Drops. That's right, it's an off week, but you've got us in your feed because we have dug into the archives. We recently had on the show as a guest Mr. Dan Deitrich, and it wasn't his first time on the show, so we thought, hey, you might want to take a little jump into the Wayback Machine and check out this chat we had many years ago. Back when this podcast was just a fledgling little thing and I had no clue what I was doing, but still the conversations were always great, and I hope you agree. So check out this bonus episode right here, this old conversation with Dan Deitrich.
You like the back and forth. You like the rush and drop. You always seem to like the climb to the top. You are the tight-fitting denim. You are the hit and run. You are the best at coming undone. You can't imagine flowers. You can't imagine spring. You can't imagine what you did to deserve this
sort of microphones you get here?
These are actually just basic Radio Shack microphones.
Oh, yeah.
I used to work for Radio Shack, and this was the last remnant of my original cheap podcasting system. So,
Nice.
but yeah, it's been like I started off with like I had the Radio Shack mic, that old school, really cheap Radio Shack mic mixer, and just sort of had to make it all work together. And it's been, like I said, it's been a build for a while, but slowly.
And what's your interface now? Is this USB? And
Yep, this is USB. Yep. So yeah, I feed all the audio through here, and it comes in via USB. I use Audacity for recording.
Nice.
And I've got a inline backup there, and because I'm paranoid and have reason to be paranoid from past history, I always record on the phone as well, because I can't tell how many times I've had to use that versus because something glitched here. You know. So how'd the show go at Delivery?
Show went really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, great turnout. And
Awesome.
A lot of fun. So
Yeah.
my buddy's band, Early Aughts, opened.
Okay.
They're from Grand Rapids. Really cool. Kind of space rock vibe.
Nice. All right. I like that.
A lot of swampy reverb and fun stuff.
Sure. Yeah. The space rock thing. That's a thing that you don't hear enough of, you know?
It really is.
Yeah.
There's not enough space rock in the world.
Yes. Yeah, we can always use more space rock. How's the album doing? Or
Yeah.
is it it's an EP, right?
I guess it's an EP. Yeah.
What's the line for that? Is it the count of songs, or?
I think it's the count of songs.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's 10, if that's the magic number that makes it an LP, but
I'm sure there's an answer out there somewhere.
But yeah, it's going well. Just trying to get it out there, get it in people's ears, and
Very nice.
yeah. So I put it up on Noise Trade, which is this platform for artists to put out their music in exchange for an email. So it's basically free.
Mhm.
You just join the email list. Got tons of downloads on that, so that's encouraging.
Nice.
Yeah.
How do you decide, your angle? Because it seems like there's so many different ways an artist can go, whether it be sell it straight up on Bandcamp, or even do the name your price thing, or Noise Trade, or get it on iTunes. I mean, how do you know which way to go?
Yeah, there's so many different options now. And the music economy is so interesting and kind of in flux. But I sort of followed this model of a guy named Josh Garrels.
Mhm.
He's a singer-songwriter. He realized that by putting it out there for free on Noise Trade, which is what he did, he was not actually losing any revenue because these were people that probably wouldn't have paid for the record. They haven't heard of him.
Sure.
But they're willing to give it a try for free.
Sure.
And so he started putting it out for the first month free on Noise Trade, and has built this email list of people who are engaged with his music through that. And hopefully someone listens to the record, they like the record, and want to hear about future things I'm doing, and maybe come to a show and spend some money in real life that way. So
Sure, yeah. I come to the show, maybe buy some merch or something, or buy the CD.
buy the old CDs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's kind of it's really sort of the Amazon model. It's like grab market share, forget about profit right now, and it's working for them. I mean, look at Bezos. So
I'm basically trying to be the Amazon.
There you go. Yeah,
indie music.
Yeah. So, do you think you'll do the Noise Trade thing for a while and then shift to a paid format?
Well, it's also available on iTunes and Bandcamp. So I did you kind of have options if you.
Sure.
So hopefully people who familiar with my music or know me will opt to, pay some money to support the art.
Sure.
But I think I'll phase out the Noise Trade probably in a month or so.
Okay. That's cool.
Yep.
Now, Noise Trade, is that strictly streaming, or is that actually a download?
It's a
option?
download, and it's high resolution. It's a good high quality audio format.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like I've only been to Noise Trade once, because again, there's so many options out there for finding music, and it's like, how do you even know where to begin? I mean, I can just like tool through Bandcamp and spend hours, finding new artists. So I don't know.
It's like, how many of the platforms does an artist have to be on these days?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of overwhelming.
It is, yeah. And it's like, what do you try to hit all of them? I mean, even with podcasting, it's like you can be on SoundCloud, you can be on iTunes, you can be on Spreaker is another one I was just looking at the other day, and they're all, there's some overlap, but then also like there's SoundCloud, which is kind of its own thing. And it's like, well, is there a whole audience there I'm missing out on? Should I really invest my time and money into being there as well? Or
and how much will you have to invest to grow an audience on a different platform?
Exactly. Yeah. And then there are podcasts that exist solely on SoundCloud. So it's like, well, which way do you go? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So with your podcast, do you have a blog or anything?
Yeah. Yep. So anywheretheneedledrops.com, and there's at least 2 written pieces there a week. One is also a mirror of the column I do in the local paper.
Oh, cool.
And then the other is what I refer to as Monday Music, and it's basically a share of a track or a story about some music, something along those lines. And sometimes it's in depth. Sometimes that's as minimal as here's the track, here's the bio. Just kind of depends on what I have that week and how much time I have to put it together.
Nice.
So, and then I also have a couple of folks who occasionally will write pieces for the site. My friend Jada out in Seattle, she's a fantastic writer, and every once in a while she'll shoot something really awesome my way and we'll put it up there. So
sweet.
Yeah. So, and I'm trying to do more. I want to get more into like pop culture-y stuff, but it's all about time and that kind of thing. So still have to go to the day job. So, only have so much time to do all of this.
Yeah.
So, how's that work for you as far as balancing the day-to-day life and then like the creative side?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. About 2 years ago, I realized I was sort of in this rut where I hadn't written a complete song in forever, and realized it was because I just wasn't creating time to do it. I've got 3 kids and a full-time job, and so that is a challenge just to sit down with a guitar for any length of time.
I imagine that's a challenge just to sit down, period.
Right, just to sit down and not have someone yelling in the background or kicking you or whatever.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, I said, okay, this year I'm going to make it my goal to just write 10 songs, and I'm going to put time on the calendar to do it. So that was tough, but I accomplished that. And then this past year, 2015, I said, okay, I'm going to record these songs. So carved out the time to do that, did a Kickstarter to raise the funds to do it, and set aside a week to go out to Colorado and just crank it out in a week.
Sure.
Rather than, try to fit it in here and there. My last record in 2011, I recorded in a friend's studio in town. I could just hop in when I had free time.
Yeah.
It was cheaper, but took, many months of stopping in for an hour here, a couple hours there.
Sure.
And that just wasn't an option anymore with the kids being older and more stuff happening. So
the Colorado thing was deliberate?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I realized that I just had to crank it out and do it and set that time aside for it. So
is there anything else that drew you out to Colorado besides that need to set aside that time for it?
Yeah, I went out there. I got in touch with this producer. His studio is out in Colorado, which is why I ended up in Colorado. Producer, his name's Michael Rosbach. He's done some work with some other bands that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
My friend's band got me in touch with him, and we got to talking, and he only takes on a handful of projects a year because he's also a touring musician himself.
Yeah.
But he dug some of the songs, and so we got to talking, and went out to this beautiful place in Durango, Colorado, and
that's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
You're just like, hey, can I come, make a record with you?
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was super stoked that he agreed to do it. So
yeah. Especially if it's someone that you've been a fan of, folks they've worked with, and to be able to go out and work with them.
Yeah.
That's the magic of the internet, that connection.
Right. Yeah.
I just did last month, the opening episode for the year was with Roger Klein, who is a musician I've followed since I was 13, 14 years old. And it was the second time he's been on my show. And it's just like,
awesome.
It's just like because of the internet, we can contact these people and we can connect with them. And it's like, they're all just people too. So they'll do these things with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
Was that the first time you'd done the crowdfunding?
No, I did the crowdfunding for my record in 2011 as well.
Okay.
So I had some success doing that and really enjoyed the process. It gets people involved, gets people excited about it. So one of the perks for being a part of both of these records was at one level you get to come into the studio and sing group vocals on a track.
Nice.
And so that's been fun both times, just to have people in the studio singing along.
Yeah. Oh,
And your
if he's
cat
bothering you.
is totally biting my hand.
If he's bothering you, we can
all of
eject
those
him from the
listening.
room. Roland is attacking the guest.
Petting you so nicely, and you turned on me. Thought we were getting along, and then
Apparently didn't care for your philosophy on
No.
crowdfunding or something. I don't know.
not into that.
Yeah. I always forget when I invite people over to the studio. I'm like, I hope they're not like allergic to cats or have problems with animals, because we have a zoo here. I mean, we've got, I don't know if you saw the rabbits in the living room,
and dog,
a couple
yeah.
of cats and the dog. And
That's funny.
so far, I've been pretty lucky. Most people have been pretty animal friendly. So what is your, like, how did you approach the crowdfunding thing? Like, how did you know what you were doing the first time you did it? I feel like that's a thing you can go way on the wrong path on if you're not careful, as far as over-promising maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Or just not knowing how to engage with the audience,
Yeah, it can be an awkward thing, because you're, on one hand, you're asking people for money at the end of the day, so that's uncomfortable to do. But the way I chose to look at it, I'm inviting people into the process of making a record. So
Sure.
instead of having a record label, I'm having this group of friends and supporters who are becoming the record label with me.
Yeah.
So hopefully the people that contributed felt a part of that process, inside looks into the recording process. And like I said, you come into the studio and be a part of it.
Sure.
In a literal sense as well. But yeah, it's so easy to overpromise things. I learned a lot from the first one.
Yeah.
Things not to do for the second one. And just seeing other bands, talking to other bands, what they wish they had done, what they wish they hadn't done.
Yeah. So how, like, during the campaign, how are you engaging with the audience? Obviously, you're probably out there on social media, but what are you doing to get people excited and aware of what's going on?
Yeah. Social media, obviously, I'm not great at it, and I always worry that I'm oversharing.
Sure.
Like, gosh, another post from Dan about his thing.
Yeah.
Like, no one wants to hear this.
Please give me money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really tried to steer it away from being about money and more being about the process.
Sure.
And trying to directly talk to people as well, get kind of key players on board that could do the sharing for me.
Yeah.
So get a handful of people that are excited about the project and that become your social media advocates.
Sure.
Found that helpful.
Yeah. Like you said, there's that awkwardness of asking people for help, and then there's also just so much noise out there. Right. So like to get it out there in a meaningful way where people are going to do more than just breeze by it as they're looking at their feed on any, whatever social media platform. Yeah, I don't think there's a secret to the social media thing. I think we're also kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty of books written, but I don't think anyone really knows.
Right. Yeah,
So.
There's no magic formula. And yeah, if you just share it once, it's going to be lost in everyone's news feed and just disappear from their mental radar. And so you have to keep it in front of people, but doing it in a not annoying way is kind of the trick.
Yeah.
But I figure like most of my news feed is like political stuff that I don't want to see, or like cat pictures. And so I feel like at least I'm contributing original art to people's news feed,
Yeah. It's probably a refreshing.
Yeah.
As an aside, that reminds me, isn't there like a Twitter feed that's like a political cat or something along those lines? Is like conservative cat or something?
I'm sure there is.
Yeah. I think someone combined the two, so it's like the internet exploded.
The internet in one.
Yeah.
One Twitter feed.
Here's everything. Yeah. Have you found with the introduction of the crowdfunding concept, has that altered people's engagement with music? Because, in the world of download a song or stream some music, sometimes it feels like music can be forgettable for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it definitely lets people invest more intimately into a project.
Mhm.
So because they've put $25 into this, they're excited about when it comes out. They're excited to get the physical CD, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And chances are good they'll actually listen to it because they've invested in it.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, hopefully they want to share it with their friends. Hey, this is this project that I was involved in. You can even hear me sing on the, end of this song or
Sure,
whatever.
yeah.
And so hopefully, because they're more invested, they're more likely to share it with others. So.
Yeah. I think that it is fun. There's an artist by the name of Justin Wells who he was the lead singer of the band Fifth on the Floor, which is no longer together. So now he's doing a solo record, and he did a crowdfunding campaign for it. And it's been cool because it's been a long process for him to create the record. So as he's been doing it, he's had sort of a production blog going. He's released a couple of demos here and there, so you can kind of like, oh, this is what it's going to sound like, and this is what he's working on. And I feel like when the final package CD that I paid for arrives, I'm gonna invest that much more time in listening to it because I was there for all these steps along the way.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really cool thing about it that makes it more tangible. That would make me pay more attention to that record versus another one.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I would put out updates like, hey, today we're recording strings. We've got a real string quartet in the studio.
Yeah.
And super cool. And so hopefully when people finally get the record, they're like, oh yeah, this is that string part.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear the strings.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
They can think back. Like, I remember that moment when they were working on that thing. Yeah. I mean, I've always been into behind the scenes stuff. And I think that's kind of a way to make things more real for people. There's the sort of this overabundance of information, yes, but if you have 100 songs, but you have this one song that you sort of have the background knowledge of, it kind of makes that one stand out, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the crowdfunding thing. I think a lot of the albums I've purchased in the last 6 months have been through crowdfunding campaign, just because it's like, oh, I want to help this artist make this thing. And
right.
I mean, we can all look at like Amanda Palmer and what she did with hers. And
and her book, The Art of Asking, which is all about that sort of thing.
Yeah, that book is pretty brilliant. And I mean, I play nerdy games like Dungeons and Dragons, and my friend Paul, we were talking about it a couple sessions ago, talking about Amanda Palmer, and so he was equating her to Dungeons and Dragons and saying that she has a charisma score of like 25 because she like has this amazing following on the internet that she's built over since the Dresden Dolls, and you look at her Patreon page and it's like $30,000 every time she releases a song. She's doing it. Right. So,
and she's got that personal engagement with the people that are invested in her. So yeah, she's knocking it out of the park.
So the EP, LP, whatever the designation is, was there a particular theme for the whole thing? What was the idea going into it?
Yeah, I think the overarching theme, I'm a Christian and I work at a church. And so for me, it was trying to dispel some of the negative stereotypes of Christianity.
Sure.
A lot of times Christians are known for what we're against because of the loudest, craziest voices on the news.
Sure.
Claim to represent all of Christianity.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping in some small way to push back against that. So the main idea, and the title track is called The Table, is the idea that everyone is invited to the table when it's Jesus' table. And so there's no strings attached. There's no prerequisites. It's really a come as you are. You don't have to worry about fitting some mold or anything like that to be invited to the table.
I love it. I think that's an important point of view to get out there because, as you said, there is this misconception about what Christianity represents in our culture. And I, as a non-Christian, I know a lot of Christians that are like you who are, open and loving and, by my understanding of things, more true to what it should be about anyway. And then you see these other voices that get the media attention. And so it's nice to see something being put out there that sort of counters that a little bit, you know? We actually met at that protest.
Yeah.
Which, like it was thrilling to me to go there, and the protest was against a bill that was largely discriminatory against homosexuals.
Yep.
And to go there and see not just some, but the majority of the crowd there protesting this bill with me were from churches. I just was like, no, this is it, right? Like these are the Christians that should be getting the attention. You know, I think that was a cool thing to see. And I think we need to see more of that, you know, getting attention. It's there. It exists. It just isn't out there.
Yeah, because it isn't crazy enough to make the news.
Yes.
It's not as polarizing, so it doesn't sell, you know. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, as we've seen in recent days with, you know, elections and such, there's definitely this thread going through our culture about, you know, the most sensational thing. And so I don't know how we dial that back, but all we can do is keep trying in little ways like this, right?
Yeah, you just do your little part and hope that other people are trying their best as well.
Indeed, yeah. How do you feel about the way the EP came out? I mean, are you feeling pretty good? Is it what you imagined?
Yeah, I'm thrilled with how it turned out. Some of the songs I had a pretty good idea of where I wanted them to end up, and others were just acoustic demos that I brought to producer guy Michael Rossback. So he just really took some and ran with them in directions I really liked.
Nice.
So that was really cool. I'm used to working. Before this, I was with a band, and so you had 4 or 5 other guys that were excited about these songs. Then my last project was more me in the studio alone late at night, wondering if anything I was putting down was better than garbage. So, that constant mental battle of artists, like, is this just awful, or no, this is actually the best thing I've ever done? Fluctuating between the two extremes.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to, again, have someone else in the studio who was passionate about the songs and had ideas about the songs.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that is the hardest part about being creative, is just that constant self-doubt, that plagues you. And if you don't have someone on the outside saying, hey, no, this is actually good, it can really tear you down. So how does that evolution work for you? I make movies, and the couple of movies that I've made, there was the imagined idea of the movie when I was in the writing phase, and then there was the completed product in. Very different, as it evolved into the editing and the shooting, the editing, everything. It's not what I imagined, not in a bad way, just this is what it became. Right. So how does that work with music?
I think it's really similar. You write the structure for a song, you've got your chord changes and your melody and lyrics, and then you bring it into the studio, and it sort of takes on a life of its own. Kind of goes in directions you didn't expect. Different players will bring their personality to it.
Sure
Taking it in a new direction that you didn't expect. So that's sort of the magic of the studio and the mixing process, is letting the song evolve. And I think it can be hard to give up some of that control as well. You have this idea of, like, this is how it has to be. But when you bring others into the creative process, you have to give up some of that control. And I think usually it turns out better when you sort of let it free and let others contribute. So
I remember a movie I did with a friend of mine, and we sort of co-wrote, directed it, and there were moments where we definitely had disagreements on, I think it was in the editing that I'm thinking of, particularly editing the shots together. And, he wanted to go this way, I wanted to go that way. And I remember at one point even forgetting why I was, like, holding so strong to this idea. And it's like, okay, no, we'll do it his way. And sure enough, he was right. Like, it came out, great that way. And that's a hard thing, though, because there's, like, it's your baby, you don't want to alter it. But it's that outside perspective can really show you, kind of open your mind a little bit, I guess. Because, sometimes if you just exist in sort of your own little sealed space, it doesn't turn out so well. So I'm a big fan of collaboration. It's my favorite part of creating things, working with someone else and bringing in their ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have a desire to get back into a full band situation in the future?
The desire is always there. I loved my band, but the place where I'm at with 3 kids and schedules and just trying to get other people's schedules to align with my schedule.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be rare occasions when I get a band together.
Sure. Speaking of schedules, is there have you established now a way to keep that creativity going? I mean, setting aside certain days a week that you write, or like, what's the process for you?
Yeah, good question. And one I need to really figure out moving forward.
Still working on that?
Yeah, I think I've put so much energy into getting this project out there, and now it's out in the world, and now I'm starting to think about, okay, let's start writing again.
Sure.
So there's no schedule right now, like I write on Mondays or anything, but I have learned that I need to be intentional with that.
Yeah.
To carve out an afternoon to write or that sort of thing. So.
Yeah. I think otherwise it becomes so easy to just let it slip by, and next thing you know, months have passed, right? I do, for my stuff, I try to, though with my current work schedule, it's becoming a little bit difficult, set aside just a period of time in the morning for certain types of writing that I want to do. That works for me. I'm a very schedule-based person, but then, I talk to a lot of artists, and it varies. I mean, some don't have, some people scheduling is too strict. Then they need to flow a little more freely. So, I mean, where would you put yourself in that perspective?
I used to think that I'm not much of a morning person, and so I used to think like, oh, I shouldn't even try to schedule creativity because when the muse strikes,
that's right,
you just have to. But I think the more you get into your craft as a songwriter or an artist or a filmmaker, the more you realize that you just have to sit down and do work to get good stuff to come out.
Sure.
So I've been really trying to do that, is just even if I don't feel very creative, I've got to sit down and get some work down on the page and just use those muscles.
Yeah.
But I also found that I do a lot of songwriting while driving.
Yeah.
And so just singing melodies and capturing it on, the iPhone memo thing.
Yep.
So I've got just tons of those little song ideas, and creating time to sit down and flesh those out.
Sure.
Where the inspiration has already struck and I've captured that, but then you have to do the hard work of fleshing it out.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like you never know when that inspiration is going to hit, whether you're driving down the road or. I mean, I can remember one of the best things I've ever written. I was sitting in a traffic jam in Chicago, and it came to me. But then you have to still have that. The muse will eventually sort of drift away, and then you have to get through the work of actually turning it into the physical thing that you're trying to create. I think that routine is important. However you do it, where you are, like you said, whether or not you're feeling creative, you're trying, even if you're just writing nonsense,
Yeah.
I always say you gotta dig through the dig through the dirt to get to the treasure. I mean,
sure.
There are days that you'll write nonsense, but you got it out at least, and now you can clear space for the good stuff, hopefully.
Yeah. I totally agree.
So you're just kind of in the preliminary stages of thinking of ideas, or have you actually got anything written down yet? Or
I've written a handful of songs
nice.
that I'm already excited about. Started demoing a couple of them.
Cool. All right.
But I'll probably let them simmer for a little while before getting back into the studio. So
nice. Similar direction as the table, or something different, or
a little different, a little more. So the table was geared quite a bit toward my church community. Some songs that we can sing together, kind of sing along.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, 3 of the songs are that, and 3 of the songs are more just listen and reflect kind of songs. These are more like what I would probably have done with my band, just big loud rock songs.
Nice. So when you do a live show like you did at Delivery, do you just grab some of your guys you've played with before and put something together, or how do you do that?
Yeah. So luckily my brothers live in town, and they they play. So I had my brother Nick on keys and my brother Matt playing drums.
Nice.
Yeah. And
Family affair.
Yep.
I love it.
And then we brought in, a friend of ours that plays bass and another guitarist friend of mine, and filled it out and had some fun. So
Do you play out there often or play around often? Or?
I play at the Livery 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm getting back in there in the spring.
Nice. All right.
I also play at the Bistro in St. Joe
Okay.
quite a bit. That's more like cover gigs.
Sure.
But yeah, you get around a little bit, but
Do you think you're going to try to get out there a little more, do more live shows or?
yeah, I'd love to get these songs out there and have people hear them.
Mm-hmm.
So hoping to get out maybe once a month.
Cool.
Regionally. Yeah, get outside of St. Joe.
Yeah. Yep. How far do you think you're going to try to reach out?
I've got some friends in Indy and Grand Rapids. So those are probably the ranges
Sure.
from here to there. So.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll have links in the show notes for everybody. And all right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right. You have been listening to Anywhere the Needle Drops, a product of Red Chuck Productions. Be sure to keep tabs on everything going on with this show and everything else Red Chuck over at redchuckproductions.com or by following us at Red Chuck Productions on social media. Special thanks to Hero Jr. for our theme music. You can check them out, listen to their songs, and see where they're going to be over at herojrmusic.com. That's herojrmusic.com. Also, special thanks to Paul Clemson, our sound engineer and producer. And while you're at it, make sure you visit the websites and band camps and shows of all of our guests. If you want local music, if you want independent music, or any kind of art, you've got to support them. So give musicians and artists your money. We will see you at the next episode. Until then, here's to life.